because, that was the big problem in this last game against the Bengals. People talk about, how Manziel was such a failure, and I'm not going to be an apologist for how Manziel played last week, but I dare you to tell me any quarterback who can win a game when he only gets 38 plays. I mean, the Bengals just ran all over the Browns, ate up the clock, barely gave Manziel time to do anything good or bad, and I just think that was really the biggest problem of the game. I don't think the Browns lost that game because of their quarterback. I think they lost the game because they couldn't stop the run, and they have to be able to stop the run if they have any chance of beating the Panthers.
Well, at the same time, and I'm with you, the week before, there were 7 3-and-outs as well, and that was all the fault of the quarterback position. Again, I find that funny, how that I'm with you. I say the same thing that you said goes back the week before as well. But yeah, 38 plays. I mean, that's incredibly hard to run that low of a number of plays in an NFL game. I think Kyle Shanahan said it's one of the lowest numbers of his career, it may have been the lowest that he's ever called in a game. I mean, that's what happens when every series is 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out.
That's right, and it wears out your defense as well. But the other thing you have to worry about with Carolina is no matter, who's throwing it, whether it's Newton or Anderson, they've got some really good receivers, and Greg Olsen has had a fantastic year for them at tight end. He's got 81 catches, and Kelvin Benjamin has been another big find for them. They're a rookie wide receiver, and it's just amazing how many we talk about, every year we talk about quarterbacks and who's going to be the good quarterbacks, but man, this year there have been a ton of great rookie wide receivers all over the league with Mike Evans for the Buccaneers and then Odell Beckham for the Giants. And then here we go with Kelvin Benjamin, he's got 952 yards. So the Olsen and Benjamin are both trying to go over 1,000 yards on the season. They're both in the mid-900s. And then they got Jericho Cotchery as well. So they've got some weapons that the Browns are going to have to watch out for, and it's going to be really interesting to see if Joe Hayden can make it back. He's been trying to get back from this injury to see if he can help out, because you say all hands on deck. The Browns are really going to need all hands on deck in the secondary in order to stop these weapons.
Absolutely. You bring up Kelvin Benjamin. That was one of, when I was looking at the wide receivers that the Browns could have drafted this year, early in the first round, I had Watkins and Mike Evans. If you're going to use your first round pick, that was kind of the two guys that were circled in that area. Kelvin Benjamin was right at the top of my, if we're going to use the back end of the first round or early second round pick, boom, he ended up going right at the end of the first round to Carolina. And that one frustrated me because he was a big go-get-him wide receiver. I liked Kelvin Benjamin a lot coming out of Florida State, and no surprise to me to see it took him a minute to get cooking, and then it was no surprise at all to see some of the catches that he makes. He's a huge red zone threat. He can go up and get the ball. He's 6'5", 240, got that NFL body that you want a wide receiver to have. Could you imagine, again, a full season of a guy like him paired up with another big, strong guy like Josh Gordon, and then mixing in your Taylor Gabriels and your Andrew Hawkins underneath in the slot? Man, that is where you can really have an effective wide receiver core. That one frustrated me. Again, when we go back, people point to Watkins, and that's the easy one because that's at the top of the draft, but Kelvin Benjamin was like sleeper. It was just screaming, somebody's got to grab. I wouldn't even say sleeper. I mean, he went in the first round, but he was right up there with, hey, don't sleep on this guy.
I know that's when you have to really look at the whole depth of people at that position, in this case, wide receiver. And it's like, you always want to get that main guy, but you're like, well, what else do we need? And who else is going to be available, like late in the first round or in the second round? And that's really been a story throughout the entire league as to how great these rookie wide receivers have been. I'm sure people wish that the rookie quarterbacks would have that same kind of success, but as we've pointed out, it's not always that easy.
No, for sure. And you brought up Olsen as well. Panthers are on the verge of having 2 1,000-yard receivers for only the second time in their franchise history. So Cam Newton having some weapons, or Derek Anderson, whichever one it is to go with here coming in. How about on the other side of the ball? We talked about what the Browns offensively dealt with 38 plays last week. You've got Manziel, part 2. How does he adapt to it? What kind of defense? I mean, obviously, you've got big names at the front. You talk about a Luke Kuechly. You've got guys like that, but there's a lot of weapons defensively too that the Browns are, and not only that the Browns are going to have to deal with, but the game plan is out. I have no doubt in my mind that Carolina is going to piggyback right off of the way Cincinnati attacked Manziel and the Browns offense and make sure that they continue to try to force him to beat them as a pocket passer.
That's right. That's definitely going to be their plan. There's no reason to deviate from that plan until the Browns have proven that they can beat it. They've got a very underrated defensive line with guys like Charles Johnson and Mario Addison. Both have 6.5 sacks, and so they're going to be trying to hassle Manziel. And then you've got, like you said, Kuechly. He's a guy that he just came right out of college a couple years ago. Like, I know this guy is going to be a success in the NFL. You could just tell that he was going to be someone that a team, in this case the Panthers, could plug right into that middle linebacker spot and just be the man. He's got 138 tackles, and he's just, every team would just love to have a great middle linebacker like him. The defensive secondary hasn't had too many interceptions, with Roman Harper leading them with 3. So it'll be interesting to see if Manziel can, find some gaps down there and maybe hopefully finally get Josh Gordon going again. But again, as we say most of the time, I think in this situation it's going to be up to the Browns to stop the run and give the offense a little bit of a chance, because it might be difficult for the Browns to get the running game going against this Carolina defense.
So talk to me a bit. What do you expect? We've looked around a little bit around Carolina here. What do you expect? How do you think this game plays itself out? However you want to look at last week. I mean, the Browns they talk about their philosophy. Each week is to isolate each week and just deal with it one at a time. They did a good job of that throughout the season. You can obviously feel that crumbling a bit around them here as the season has definitely tailed off differently. Yeah, it's a different feeling than when you're 6-3, 7-4, but you got to dig through it still. How do you see this one playing out? Obviously, Carolina has the motivation of fighting for a playoff spot. I don't dig too much into maybe for the Ravens or like the in-division guys, but I can't see the playing spoiler to the Panthers. I can't see the Browns caring that much about that. Maybe next week if they can spoil for the Ravens, then that's something, But other than that, what do you see? How do you see this one playing out, man?
Well, I think the Browns have done a lot of good things this year, and I think that they're really going to come out motivated because, last week was just absolutely a debacle, and I think that everybody is motivated to come out and play with a lot more energy, a lot more sharpness, and I think that this is a game in which the defense might be able to help pull this one out, and they're going to really need the defense to do this because, of course, the offense is really, unfortunately, a work in progress. When you plug in a new quarterback, it's almost like you're hitting the reset button and starting from the beginning. So it's certainly not going to be easy. Of course, the Panthers, they're motivated because they're playing at home. They've still got a chance to win in the playoffs, strangely enough. But I think that the Browns are going to do it. I've been trying to talk myself into this. I really want the Browns to win this game and come up with an 8-8 season because I really don't think they're going to win next week. I think the Ravens are definitely going to beat them next week. I'm trying to see, is there any way they can win this thing? And the way I figured it out is I've looked at the Panthers, and I realized that even though we're talking about the fact that they're in the playoffs, they're really not a very good team. I mean, they've been right. I mean, you look at their 5 wins. I mean, we have 7 wins. They have 5 wins. 2 of those wins have been over Tampa Bay with Derek Anderson quarterbacking. They beat the Bucs by 2 last week, and they beat the Bucs by 6 earlier. Now, they also beat the Bears, who are also not that good, and they've had 2 really solid wins where they beat Detroit and they beat New Orleans. But they have been crushed over and over. The Steelers destroyed them. The Ravens destroyed them. The Packers destroyed them. The Saints also destroyed them. So did Philadelphia. Even Minnesota. Minnesota beat them 31-13. So even though we're focused on the Panthers because they're still in the playoff hunt, they're really not that good. So I think that a motivated Browns team, and I think that's what we're going to see, has a chance to win. I'm not saying Manziel's going to set the world on fire, but I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was last week. I just can't see him coming out and being that ineffective. So I think that the defense is going to help him out. It's going to be kind of a low-scoring game, and I see the Browns pulling this one out 17-16.
Wow, going out on a limb. But you know what? Because when I was thinking about it this week, and then especially last night and today, looking at this and said, okay, how am I going to predict this thing going out? I think Carolina pulls it out late because they want it just a little bit more, and they're at home. But that being said, I don't think it's crazy. I don't think, like you said, the Browns aren't getting blown out here. I think the Browns are going to have a lead late in this thing. I can see the Browns leading this thing 14-13 down the stretch. I can see one of those deals where a late score or a couple of late field goals beats them down the stretch. Because defensively, I don't know who all is going to play. I think when we get down to game time, we'll see everybody that suits up, who goes and who doesn't, because some of those are key. I mean, the more thin you are in the secondary, the more, if you're not strong in the secondary, you're going to have trouble here with these wide receivers for sure. And we've seen with the running game, they make adequate running backs look better than they do, and they make good ones look great. Stewart is not great, but he's averaging between 4.5 and 5 yards a carry. We've seen buddy Fozzie Whitaker over there on the sidelines for them. But
yeah.
I can't predict the Browns to win this game. And people are going, man, Jarek always looks for a way. I do. I try to find any way to talk myself into it. But I do think that they're going to play. I do. My question is, how do they play offensively? I really don't know, because I have my doubts about how, no matter how much better the offense can be this week. I have my doubts about how good the offense can be, even if it's better, if that makes sense, because I have doubts about number 2. So let's see how those get answered. But I agree with you that you went out on the limb and picked a victory, because getting back to what I was saying, when I looked at this, I said, man, a couple of weeks ago when things were humming, when the Browns were still rolling, before everything changed, before the direction of the second half of the season changed, this was definitely a game you circle and you go winnable. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And so I look back to that. I'm like, this is still the same Panthers, but it's a different Browns team. It's definitely still the same Panthers team. Now, I'll say this and pair it right with what you just said. If the Browns want to finish 8-8 this season, I do agree. They absolutely have to win this weekend, because good luck next week. I'm not saying you can't beat the Ravens. They played them tight earlier in the season, but it's not at home, and they're going to be fighting for something, and good luck with that one, especially with another week of injuries and another week of whatever happens, the grind of an NFL season, and now you've got even less of the motivation. I'm just saying, if you want to finish 500, I think your best bet is to beat the Panthers here, and I think they'll make a run of it. I just think that Carolina makes 1 or 2 plays more late, and a lot of it has to do with the offense continuing to not stay on the field and the defense just being too wore out in the fourth quarter. But I'm with you going out on a limb. Jeff Gorman taking the Browns 17-16, man, and you're pretty down to earth. So there you go, man. And I think you're right about what the score is going to be about in that area, no matter who pulls it out.
Thanks. There's a very good chance that I could be wrong. I may be voting with my heart, but something tells me that they're going to pull it out. Again, they're probably in a low-scoring game.
I hope you're right. I mean, you get a defensive turnover or 2 here, get a pick 6, I'm with it. I hope you're right. I think that the Browns. I will say this: they deserve to finish 500 this season with the effort that they put in to even be sitting here. And I don't care who wants to hear that or not. If you hate the Browns and you don't want to hear me say this, then turn off your radio. I don't care. The Browns overcoming everything that they did this year, including having Johnny Circus on the sideline, which, regardless of Manziel now, that's what he's been on the sideline. It's been a distraction to this team from day one. But Mac, forget Johnny, Mac going down, Josh Gordon not being there, Jordan Cameron being invisible, go one thing after another. For the Browns to be where they're at 7 wins this season is a hell of a good job. And having a rookie coach on top of that, yeah. And if they could finish at 8-8, I'd be all for that, man. And as we said, going into the offseason, 1-2 in Johnny's 3 starts looks better than 0-3. But we'll see. From your lips to God's ears, my friend. Hopefully they can go make that happen.
Let's hope so. That would be definitely the Christmas present that I'm looking for this year.
Speaking of Christmas, how about, let's see, I think we're only going to do a couple of early shows next week. Why don't you and we'll catch up on Tuesday. We'll do we'll just kind of wear both hats on Tuesday, and we'll just have a little fun, you and I, as we head into the holidays. How's that sound?
Sounds going to be a little bit of an Indians, Browns, Bouillabaisse heading into Christmas.
Bouillabaisse.